Today we're talking Turkey 101 with the top 10 Thanksgiving Day mistakes and how to solve them. Like, how much turkey should you buy in the first place? And what's the best way to cook it? My method for oven-roasted turkey is foolproof and comes with a one-size-fits-all stuffing that's easily customized. And so you don't sweat the final minutes after the turkey comes out, I've got prep-ahead strategies for fluffy mashed potatoes and my no-fail pan gravy. There's nothing like a field trip on a crisp fall day, and ours is to Stone Barns Farm in Westchester, New York, to see how turkeys and winter vegetables are sustainably raised. Back in my kitchen, I'll spin those veggies into 3 easy side dishes to round out the meal. Creamy root vegetable soup with crunchy homemade pita crisp to start, then shredded butternut squash with dates. And finally, my Brussels sprouts with panko and creamy tahini dressing. I've even got a healthy snack to keep you going: apple nutmeg bites. I've got everything you need to know to avoid those Thanksgiving Day disasters. Turkey 101. School is now in session. Hi, I'm Sara Moulton. Welcome to Sara's Weeknight Meals. Every Thanksgiving on Good Morning America, I help the turkey challenge through the big day. And over the years, I've realized a lot of people make a lot of mistakes that are easy to avoid, starting with the turkey. Mistake number 1, too much or too little turkey. What you want is about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of turkey per person, especially if you want leftovers. Go the higher way. So this is a 12-pound turkey. It will feed about 10 to 12 people. You also have to make a choice about what kind of turkey, but I'm going to leave that up to you. Mistake number 2, not allowing enough time to defrost. So if you're going to do the turkey in the refrigerator, you need 24 hours for every 4 to 5 pounds of turkey. If you should happen to forget, 11th hour, you can defrost the turkey in a big sink of cold water, breast side down in the package. Change the cold water every 30 minutes, and it will take 30 minutes per pound to defrost the turkey. So a 12-pound turkey will take 6 hours to defrost in the sink. Now, here we are, and you have to now take out all the innards. If you're lucky, you get all that happy little innard stuff in there. Sometimes it comes with nothing, which always makes me very sad. But usually in here, in the cavity here, you're going to find the neck. And then usually down here at the other end, by the wishbone, you find a package of giblets. Giblets have so much flavor. Don't throw them out. Add them to the stock. Mistake number 3, dry, flavorless turkey. And this is the worst mistake. What is the solution? Brine the turkey. I'm going to explain brining while I loosen the skin, and you'll understand why I am in just a minute. What brining is making a solution of water and salt and sometimes sugar and sometimes spices, and you throw your turkey in with that liquid. It's almost like you need to find a little swimming pool somewhere for the turkey. Who has that much extra real estate to store a turkey in a big bag of liquid? We are going to do a different method because I don't have that kind of real estate for a turkey in my fridge, and I don't have an extra bathtub. We're going to do just salt, which is like a dry brine. We're going to start on the inside. We put a tablespoon in the inside and just rub it around. Hey, you're going to that's one of the things about Thanksgiving. You're just up to your elbows in turkey and all those things. So we're just going to get it out of the way and then hose down and carry on. You rub 1.5 teaspoons on each of the breast halves. And what happens when you brine a turkey, when you add that salt to it, is that it pulls out the liquid from the turkey, and then because it has to equalize, I don't understand all the chemistry, the liquid goes right back into the turkey eventually, and suddenly you have turkey which has all this moisture inside that's being held there by the salt content, and it becomes very moist, which it isn't normally very moist. So once you've got all that salt on the turkey, you want to wrap it very tightly in plastic wrap or tightly in a plastic bag and put it in the fridge for 24 to 36 hours. Okay, and then you take it out after that period of time. It's been brined, dry brined. We're ready to go. What you want to do at this point is pat it dry. I have some soapy water. I keep a bowl of soapy water in the sink so that I can wash my hands constantly whenever I need to and not contaminate the faucets on the sink. Okay, now, have you ever tried to take a 26-pound turkey out of the oven in one of those dumb little foil roasting pans? I guarantee you that is one of the most dangerous things you could possibly do. You'll be wearing it. Okay, so you need a serious pan. So I've melted 1 stick of butter in the microwave, and right now I'm gonna baste the turkey with 1/3 of that butter. We're gonna just brush it all over. Meanwhile, I've preheated my oven to 325. I'm giving you the very basic way to cook turkey. Now, after I get about 1/3 of the butter on top of the turkey, I'm gonna pour some of the delicious stock that I made earlier. We need 2 cups. And the reason we're putting this in here is as the turkey cooks, we're gonna keep a moist environment. We're gonna do everything we possibly can to make sure that the turkey stays moist. So I'm gonna cover the whole thing really tightly on the breast, because that's what dries out the most. And then just sort of loosely on the legs, because we want the whole thing to roast at roughly the same time. The turkey that I'm roasting today is 12 pounds, so I'm estimating that it's gonna take about 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3 hours to roast. And I chose not to stuff it for 2 reasons. One is, it cooks so much faster. This will probably be done in 2 hours and 45 minutes. If it was stuffed, it might have been 3 hours and a half or more. The second reason I didn't stuff it is, when you stuff a turkey, the stuffing must come up to a certain temperature, 165 degrees. It rarely gets to that temperature in the time that the turkey cooks. So usually you have to take the stuffing out. All right, so I'm gonna get my turkey into the oven. I'm gonna try to work very quickly. So I say, do it breast side up the whole time at 325. And now, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare my stuffing, because I'm gonna cook the stuffing on the outside. Now, what people say is if you cook the stuffing on the outside, it's called dressing. If you cook it on the inside, it's called stuffing. And the reason that people, I think, like stuffing is because they like that it picks up all the juices from the turkey. But I figured out a way to make that happen without cooking it in the turkey. Here I have 12 slices of bread that I've cut into 1/2-inch cubes and toasted in a 400-degree oven for about 5 to 7 minutes. The other problem that people make, besides not knowing how much turkey to get, is how much stuffing do you make? Well, it's roughly 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup per person, depending on whether you want leftovers. And I'm melting 6 tablespoons of butter. You're like, oh no, but that's what you do at Thanksgiving. We splurge a little bit. So I'm gonna melt this and finish chopping up my onion. So we're gonna do onion and celery in the stuffing. I'm gonna start by sauteing 2 cups of onion and 1 cup of chopped celery in 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So let me cook that up and chop up my herbs. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon each of fresh sage and fresh thyme. It's all a matter of taste. It's important to taste, and that's part of the fun of making the stuffing, is eating quite a bit of it as you make it. I mean, what's better than butter and bread? Okay, so there's our thyme. It's fresh sage. If you're gonna use dried sage or dried thyme, use half the amount. Go with about 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. You can add many things to your basic stuffing. You could add some toasted nuts, sauteed mushrooms, sauteed apple, dried fruit, like dried cherries, pork product, that's a particular favorite, bacon, Canadian bacon, prosciutto, sausages. So this is where you can just let your imagination run free. But consider this all as flavorings after you've got your basic stuffing done. All right, I've softened these up. Now I'm gonna add to the stuffing 1.5 cups of either chicken broth or your homemade turkey stock. And if you add it hot, heat it a little bit, it will stir in much better with the cubes. And this is again to moisten it. So there goes all the vegetables. About 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Wow, this smells so good. And you could do this a day ahead of time even. The good news about cooking the stuffing ahead of time is that then, while the turkey is resting, you can just finish the stuffing in the oven. You put it in the 350 oven for 15 minutes, Then you take off the foil and give it another 15 minutes and it'll develop a crust on top, and that will all happen in a half an hour. We're off to a good start with our bird in the oven, and we've got our stuffing all made. Next up, some prep ahead strategies for making this meal come together even easier on that big day. We're talking turkey today with tips and solutions for the top 10 mistakes people make on Thanksgiving. We're going to tackle some terrific side dish strategies in just a minute, but first we need to baste our bird, which brings us to mistake number 5. Opening the oven door and leaving it open while you baste the turkey. You put the turkey down, you wander off and get the butter, you wander back and baste it. You scratch your head for a minute, you put it back in. Guess what? I've just lost 25 degrees of temperature. No wonder the turkey's taking 4 hours instead of 3. Instead, get your turkey out of the oven, go right to the counter, safe place. I've got this nice copper counter. Baste it here. Okay, it's time to add the second third of our butter. Just basting everywhere. I'm going to add a little more broth because what we're doing down here is we're developing a wonderful sort of concentrated dripping liquid. Recover the turkey, and we're going to keep it covered and put it back in the oven for about another half an hour, because at that point we will be at the halfway point of our total turkey roasting time. I've estimated this is going to, I'm waiting for a minute to open the door. I've estimated this is going to take 3 hours. So at an hour and a half, I'm going to take off the foil, baste it one last time, and let it finish roasting. Okay, quick. There you go. Now, let's rewind for a second. We're going to move on to the next mistake. Mistake number 6. Cooking too much at the last minute. I think this is so stressful. You've got the turkey roasting, you got everything going. Calm down. There's a few things you can make the day before, namely the mashed potatoes and the gravy. We're going to start with the mashed potatoes. We have in here some Yukon Gold potatoes that we've peeled, and we put them in cold water, cold salted water, brought up to a boil, simmered until they're just tender. You can also use russet, which is a high-starch, wonderful potato, the most famous being the Idaho. Cook it till a knife just goes through, and then we're going to drain these. So we just put them back here, shake them around, get off any excess liquid. You have many different options to mash the potatoes. One is what we're using here, which is a food mill. You could also use a ricer, which looks like a giant garlic press. You may have seen those. I love that. Or, if you don't mind a few lumps, you can just use a plain old potato masher and just go like this. Worst comes to worst, use a fork. But whatever you do not reach for what I reached for once, which is mistake number 7. Do not put your potatoes in the food processor. If you do, you will end up with one thing and one thing only, and that is called wallpaper glue. And those potatoes, you develop the starch so much in the potatoes, they tighten up, they will never relax. You will not have mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. So we're going to rice all the potatoes. Every time I pull out one of these food mills, it reminds me of my grandmother, Ruth Moulton, who was a great ye olde New England cook. And I guess she must have used this for a lot of things, not just potatoes. Now we're not going to stir these potatoes at all. We're going to let them relax, put them in the fridge, just a little plastic wrap, and then tomorrow we add the good stuff. We'll heat them up in the microwave and add some softened butter and some hot milk. But this is the bulk of the work. We've done it the day before.
It's hard to believe that 30 million people live just 30 miles from here. Stone Barns Center for Food and Agriculture is a living, working postcard of sustainable farming. It's just outside New York, but in a world of its own. Here they not only grow healthy, delicious food, but they also grow farmers through a unique internship program. My nephew Peter was one of them. He's showing me around before we harvest some versatile winter vegetables.
I had a ton of fun here.
What'd you learn?
I mean, I think in the obvious sense, I learned a lot about growing vegetables, but people here are so passionate about food, and obviously our family's really into food. So I got to interact with a lot of really interesting and passionate people, and they taught me a lot about food and how important it is to be connected to your food. You know, it's one thing to cook a carrot, but it's another to grow it and see it through to the finish.
Here at Stone Barns, they grow between 200 and 300 varieties of herbs, fruits, and vegetables all year round. Jack Algier is the vegetable farm manager and was Peter's supervisor when he interned here.
So what's been happening in the last 2 years since I left?
Well, the farm continues to rotate around here. We've got a lot of new varieties of things coming in. And, you know, our planning for the markets has been a lot better, improving all the time with the restaurant and our farmers markets.
Food grown on the farm is sold to the world-acclaimed restaurant here, Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and at their year-round farmers market, because even in the winter they found ways to grow fresh veggies.
So I had no idea you could grow vegetables in winter. How do you do it?
Well, there's actually a lot of different things we can grow through the winter, mostly because there are so many things that can make it through a freeze without any problem at all. It's just a matter of protecting them from the harsh winds and heavy snows and things like that.
So that's what this thingy is?
Yeah, we'll take a look underneath this fabric here.
Oh, it's spinach. How cool.
Now this spinach is mature, but it will continue to grow all the way through the winter.
And then this doesn't freeze?
Yes, it does freeze.
Really?
Yeah. And we want it to freeze solid. See, freezing doesn't necessarily kill a plant like spinach or kale or other things like that, or
Did you know
parsnips.
I know this because he told me.
Wow,
So,
that's wild.
That's where the improvement comes from, really, because the slower it grows and the colder it is, when it switches back and forth, freeze to thaw each morning and day, then what happens is essentially the sugar builds up as a sort of antifreeze. So the sweeter the plant gets, the more resilient it is to the freeze. The great benefit of the whole thing is that really we end up with a spinach that is sweeter than any other time of the year because of this flow back and forth starts to sugar.
What makes it possible is this simple tunnel even home gardeners can make with sheet plastic and PVC pipe. Under this, they grow lots of hardy greens. But I've got other things on my mind, like carrots for my Thanksgiving soup.
You can see here a lot of carrots growing in here. They're pretty good size.
Wow. That is one thick carrot.
Yeah, we do want these to go into storage, and it can stay good until March.
What? Who knew? Did you know
But we
that?
sell everything as
I
quick
only
as we
know that 'cause I
can.
worked here.
Okay.
So feel free to
All
pick
right,
one or
so
two, yeah?
they're all ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Whoa. Oh, that's a big one.
That is a
I
big
got a
one.
big carrot.
Yeah.
You can clean mine for me. All right. I mean, I think we got enough here. That's terrific.
Stone Barns is home to all sorts of critters. Pigs, chickens, sheep, turkeys. They are moved around to fertilize and maintain the fields. Turkey herding is a little like herding cats, and at Stone Barns, it's just another day at the office. Livestock manager Craig Haney introduced us to his flock.
These guys are so funny. Are they guys or gals? I don't really want to know how you tell. And what if you want to get them to come to you?
Well, generally I can just step inside here and maybe make some noise, maybe do a turkey call and see if they can catch their attention and get them
call?
calling. Yeah. I mean,
Are you
everybody's
kidding?
got their own favorite
Are
one
you
that they
gonna
like to do, but
hey,
I
baby,
definitely have
come
my
to
own.
me. I
So,
mean, what do you say?
usually I go.
Okay.
They like that one.
Oh,
They like that one.
okay.
You're
I'll
an
try it
outlaw.
again.
Okay, I think- I'm not not very good at it.
I feel like we're in Jurassic Park. Oh, that
There we
guy
go.
likes
Yeah,
it.
he likes
Let's try
it.
it all three at once. Maybe we can
Ready,
do
ready,
one,
ready?
2, 3.
It took a while, but I may have found my calling. Turkey calling.
I like it.
Getting better and better each time.
A trip to Stone Barns is a trip back to how farming used to be, but with a touch of the future. Here, farmers work with chefs in the kitchen, chefs work with farmers in the field, and educators work with school children to share the primal lessons of what real food tastes like. Back in my kitchen, we'll find out how delicious that can be.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a creamy root vegetable soup that's topped with everything pita crisps. And I first discovered it, a different version, this is my interpretation, at this wonderful spa I go to every year and teach classes in Austin, Texas. And I so loved the soup, I was like, I'm going to come up with my own. So we start with our onions because most good hot soups start with onions. Let me just get these in the pan quickly. And then I want to talk to you about how to slice an onion. Because believe it or not, it makes a difference. Let me just get this in there. I've got 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in here and a cup and a half of thinly sliced onion. And we don't want to get too much color in them, we just want to soften them. So here we have a whole onion. When you slice it, you want to take off both ends. There you go. First. You don't peel it first, because why would you? Because after you cut it in half, it's so much easier to peel. Now, when you look at an onion, I'm just going to peel half of it. When you look at an onion, you're going to see something that you probably noticed in meat. There is a grain. It goes this way. So how you want to slice an onion is with the grain. When you slice an onion with the grain, that means it will keep its shape much better. Why? Because when you cut across the grain, it's like you're chopping it up, so it falls apart. Onions have sulfur compounds in them, and that sulfur compound is what gives off those fumes that makes you cry. And now we're going to talk about how you cook an onion, which is what we're doing right here. The appropriate way, I turned it down, I'm cooking it slowly, is those sulfur compounds are activated by an enzyme. And when they're activated, they're very pungent and very strong. But if you cook them low and slow, that pungency dulls down, and not only that, becomes very sweet. So there you go. Now, those are just about ready. I'm going to add my garlic. We don't add the garlic right away because we don't want it to burn. So in goes the garlic. And we cook that for about another minute, and then we're going to add the other root vegetables. Now, you know, it's interesting. Almost any root vegetable, when you cook it, as long as it was fresh to begin with, ends up with a beautiful sweet flavor. So we've got equal parts here, 3/4 pound each of parsnips, carrots, and turnips. Now here's what's interesting. Anytime you make a soup, if you have a lot of vegetables in it and you puree it, you don't need a thickener. It's naturally thick. But just in case, I add my little super weapon, which is a potato. Now this is Yukon Gold. I love Yukon Golds because they're gold, so we think they're buttery, but they have a wonderful potato flavor. Now you noticed I had them floating in water here. That's because when I prepped, I peeled them, I chopped them, I put them in water so they wouldn't oxidize and turn color. So now I'm going to add 4 cups of chicken broth or vegetable broth or water, and then I'm going to get another 2 cups of water from the sink and just add that in too. Because we don't want this to be too tasting of the stock, we want it to taste of the root vegetables. That's what's so wonderful about this. And make sure they're nicely covered, they're just perfectly covered. So this comes up to a boil. We turn it down to a simmer. We're going to give it 15 minutes until you can tell the vegetables are very tender. And then we're going to puree it and carry on. Now we're going to get the garnish together here. I have a parsnip. I don't like just plain old creamy soups. I like texture. So that's why not only do I start with a creamy soup, I then add little bits of cut up vegetables. And I already have done my 3/4 of a pound of turnip and carrot. So just a nice dice. Let me add these to the other guys, and then we're going to puree the soup. Oh yes, that smells wonderful. Nothing says fall like root vegetables, you know. I can see that that's nice and tender, yep. Okay, puree the soup while it's hot. Now, you have to be careful because heat expands, as we all know. So I'm going to put the soup in here while it's hot, but you only fill the blender about 1/3 of the way full. Put a lid on the blender, make sure there's a little air vent, and put a towel over the whole thing. Okay, so you start out slow, and then you move it up. There you go. I'm going to transfer this to a bowl and puree the rest of it. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that color. Remember, there's no thickener in there. Okay. So I'm going to add the diced vegetables to the pureed soup and let that simmer. These only take about 15-20 minutes to get tender. Okay, while that simmers, I'm going to move on to the pita crisps. So we're going to start with the topping. It's everything bagel topping. So we need 2 teaspoons each of poppy seeds, 2 teaspoons of sesame seeds, 2 teaspoons of flaked garlic, not garlic powder. Garlic powder is too fine. And the same of the granulated or flaked onion. And then we need a little bit of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon. All right, so that is our everything bagel topping. So then I'm going to cut the pitas in half using a serrated knife. So in order to have them, you have to get down with a serrated knife and take your time. Make sure they're very fresh, because if they're stale, you won't be able to do this. And if it tears a little bit, don't worry, this is not rocket science. Okay, there we go. All right. So you have to do this in batches. I'm going to do like 3 at a time. And I'm going to brush them with a neutral oil. I like grapeseed. That's my vegetable oil of choice. And this is what's going to glue the topping on. Meanwhile, I preheated the oven to 375. Okay, I'm going to cut these guys up. And then, I'll just do it like this, make my life easy. Stack them up. We're going to do these in 6ths. So let me move all of this down here to my rimmed sheet pan. Here we go. Line them up like the Rockettes. It makes your life easier. And our everything bagel topping. You could use, you know, if you liked it, something else appealed to you, maybe smoked paprika would be fun, and cumin. I just happen to like this because I love those everything bagels. Okay. Into the oven we go, 375 for about 8 minutes. It depends on how dark you want them. So I'm going to taste the soup. You always need to taste the soup at the end. First, let's look at the texture. So I think I'm going to leave the texture just as it is because it looks perfect, but often I have to add up to another cup of water. So you just decide what texture you like, how thick or thin. So let's see.
Whoa. I'm going to add some pepper, just a little pepper. I haven't added any up till now, and a little bit of lemon juice. A tablespoon and a half of lemon juice. All right, perfect. So I'm going to go grab my pita crisps, and we're going to plate up our soup. Wow, isn't that beautiful, the color on those? I just can't have soup without some sort of toast or bread. Okay. Oh, I forgot something very important. You need something a little salty to finish it, and also to make it more substantial. As I said, this could be an entree. So we've got some feta crumbled up, and now I'm going to serve it up. This would be the perfect soup, really, for a first course of a holiday meal. But it would also be a great entree, or in the middle of the day. Oh my gosh, that color is just something else. So there you have it, my root vegetable soup with feta crumbles and everything pita crisps. The perfect soup for the fall and winter. It's hard to believe that you'd be hungry in the middle of a day like this, but yes, you would be, especially if the meal's not till 4. So I have the perfect little healthy snack for you. They're apple nutmeg bites. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of dried apples. So we're going to put everything in this mini chopper here. And then we have 1/2 cup of dried dates. 1/2 tablespoon of agave syrup. You could use maple syrup or honey. It's your choice what you want to use as a sweetener. We have 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and finally 1/2 cup of toasted walnuts. Now I'm going to roll the mixture into balls. And just little balls, bite size is perfect. Boy, these are perfect for a long day of cooking. I was so excited when I discovered the shredding disc on my food processor. I mean, that thing that was in the box in the cupboard with the dust that you ignored. One day I took it out to do beets for the husband, okay, beets. But then I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna do everything in this shredder. So since then, I've tried to shred everything known to man. But what it's really great for is root vegetables, hard vegetables, vegetables that take a while to cook. So today, I'm going to use this shredding disc to make my sauteed shredded butternut squash with dates, pistachios, and lemon. Let's talk about butternut squash. We love it. It's in the vining family, which is the same family as melons and cucumber. I'm just going to start peeling it. Be very careful. The one thing about it, it's dangerous. So I'm going to start right in the middle and get it in half so I can lay it flat before I peel it, okay? But it's a fruit. Although we eat it as a vegetable, although think about it, how sweet it is. But it stays in the ground longer, so it gets thicker outer skin. But that's wonderful because then it cures longer, it grows longer, and it's got more depth of flavor. So after you get it all peeled like this, you cut this in half, and then you can just, let's say I'd already peeled this, and then you just scoop out the seeds. Of course, you can also buy it already cut into chunks. However, make sure that it looks nice and moist in the package. So, on to shredding. So the fun thing about shredding is that it's a good activity at the end of a bad day. You know, at the office, the kids have been misbehaving, you put everything in there, and you just hit the button. It gets out all that aggression. Wasn't that fun? So I'm going to get my shallots cooking here. A little bit of oil, a couple tablespoons. We're just using grapeseed oil, which is flavorless. You could use safflower or sunflower also. In go our shallots. I've got 3 medium, and we're just going to soften these for a few minutes. Now I want to talk about dates. What's so wonderful about dates is that they're a very good source of fiber, 3 grams per serving, and they also are high in potassium, very good for your digestive system, and they're naturally tree sweetened. So it's the kind of sugar that's just good energy. You can buy them whole. Cutting them up then, I need 3 large dates for this, is a little sticky business, so you can take some flour, put it on your knife, and chop them that way. You can squeeze a little lemon on them, which helps, or you can freeze them, which you can do with any dried fruit, which makes it much easier and less sticky to cut them. Or you can do the sneaky thing and just buy them already chopped. By the way, these are Deglet Noor dates, and you can find them in any supermarket. So my shallots have got nice color on them. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Now we're going to add a few mint leaves. Let's do 4. Line up your herbs like a deck of cards. You roll them up tightly like a cigar, and then you just very quickly hit them with a very sharp knife so you don't bruise them. And this will go in last. All right. A little bit of lemon we're going to add. Tablespoon or so, depends on how sweet the butternut squash was. I'm going to start with some, we may add some more. And I have some pistachios. I love pistachios. This is a 1/3 cup of toasted chopped pistachios. In go our dates. Oh, it's so nice to work with the chopped ones. And I'm going to add a pinch of cayenne because butternut squash is very sweet, and I like to counterbalance sweetness with a little bit of spice. You can certainly leave it out if you want to, but it's just, they do a happy dance together. In goes our mint. I may garnish with a little more for dramatic effect. Okay, done. Fantastic, huh? I'm going to put it in this pretty bowl. You know, you put this on a table, it's just gorgeous. Okay, and there you have it, my shredded butternut squash with dates and pistachios. I am making this wonderful dish from a friend of mine called Rawia Bashara. She's Palestinian, lives in Israel, but has a restaurant in Brooklyn called Tannerine, and a wonderful book, Olives, Lemons, and Za'atar. And this is her recipe. Even though there are no Brussels sprouts where she grew up, she's realized they're so wonderful, she's adapted it. So these are fried lightly and topped with a tahini yogurt and pomegranate molasses sauce. So let me get these guys frying first. We're doing shallow frying. It's about 1/4 inch of corn oil, and we want to get it hot. And I'm just cutting these guys in half. Brussels sprouts are wonderful because they store very well. They're like little cabbages, and they, last quite well in the refrigerator, and they are so healthy for you. So I'm going to get these guys in here. You're going to see it bubbling up around this. These only take a couple of minutes. We're making a tahini sauce, and I've got some roasted sesame seed paste. Comes in a can, Middle Eastern. You can find it in the supermarket these days. 3/4 of a cup of tahini, and let me just get my garlic in there. We're going to do it in the food processor to get a nice smooth texture. So in goes our garlic. And then in goes 1/2 cup of fresh lemon juice. Now I'm going to add the salt, 1/2 teaspoon. I'm going to take a quick look at my Brussels sprouts and give them a turn. You want to get a little color on them. Okay, so let's see how we're doing with our sauce. Now see how nice and thick it is, but we want to thin it down a little bit. So we're going to add some water. 1/4 cup of water. All right, these look like they have nice color. Take a slotted spoon, put it on paper towels. All right, and I'm going to sprinkle them with a tiny bit of salt. It's a good idea to season them while they're still hot. And now, as if this isn't good enough already, we're going to make some toasted panko breadcrumbs to sprinkle on top of the whole thing. We'll start with a tablespoon of olive oil. And the reason we're using panko is because, as you all know, they're Japanese breadcrumbs, and they get so much crispier than regular breadcrumbs, the regular dried ones. I'm going to add the garlic right now to let it heat up in the oil. I like to start it in cold oil because when you bring garlic up in cold oil, it sucks more flavor out of the garlic. We have our thick tahini sauce that we made, and we're going to take 1/2 cup of that and add it to some yogurt. Oh, I can see the garlic is getting somewhere. Don't want to ever burn the garlic. So let me go back and stir up the garlic and add the panko. And you got to keep an eye on the panko too, because they can go very fast. You don't want them too brown. And a pinch of salt, just a little pinch. Okay, so while that toasts away, coming back to my sauce, this goes in. Yes. And then in goes 1/2 cup of plain yogurt. Okay, and back to my crumbs. I told you they go fast. These crumbs, actually, if you make nothing else from this recipe, make these crumbs and put them on top of anything and everything. Pasta, you finished a quick pasta dish, sprinkle some crumbs on top. So, now we're going to add a tablespoon of pomegranate molasses. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's actually reduced pomegranate juice, and it gets really, really, really thick, you're going to see. And it's just delightful. It's got terrific depth of flavor. And if you don't have it or can't find it, or you could use balsamic, which is similar, but not exactly the same. I'm gonna whisk it up. Takes a minute. Wow, doesn't that just look fantastic? Okay, I think I've got all of my parts ready. So here we go. We're going to start with our Brussels sprouts. I've got a nice long platter here. And if you wanted to just quick reheat them, you could just throw them in the oven for a second. Oh gosh, these are so good. Just looking at them makes me hungry. And then we're going to spoon some of our sauce over. Finally, our breadcrumbs. And as if that wasn't good enough, a little bit of fresh chopped parsley. So there you have it, Rawia Bashara's
Brussels sprouts with tahini yogurt pomegranate sauce, the perfect side dish for any holiday meal. Okay, let's move on to the gravy you can make the day before. So we've got 8 tablespoons of butter in here, and I'm going to add 8 tablespoons of flour as soon as this is melted. At this point, we don't want too high a temperature on the butter because we don't want to make little dumplings when we add the flour. And this is regular all-purpose flour, which is the best thing when you're making a gravy. It's just perfect, and I'm sure you all have it in your house. And we cook this in, for a few minutes until it sort of looks like sand, like wet sand. It's going to bubble up a little bit. So see how it looks sort of like bubbly sand? That's what it should look like. Now I'm going to add my chicken broth or your homemade turkey stock. I like to start gradually until I whisk in the first amount and let it sort of get incorporated. I have the best success in terms of lumps. Hot liquid into hot roux, roughly the same temperature. See, no lumps so far. We're going to add some more. I add it in about 3 or 4 amounts. Lumpy gravy is another problem that a lot of people have. And if you still end up with lumpy gravy, don't worry, just strain it and don't tell anybody it was lumpy. And the last amount, there we go. Now I'm going to bring it up to a full boil. And your gravy or any sauce that you thicken with a roux or with flour will not reach its full thickening capacity until you bring it up to a full boil. Then you'll know what you're dealing with. You won't know until you get to that point. So you just have to be patient and whisk, use your whisk and to get into the corners. All right, I'm going to simmer this at least 8 minutes. 1 minute for every tablespoon of flour in there. Gently. It's reached its full thickening capacity, so I'm just going to let it do its thing. And we're going to talk about mistake number 8, overcooking the turkey. Solution, make sure you use an instant read thermometer and that it is in working order. All right, time's up. It's been 3 hours. Isn't that beautiful? We only uncovered it for half of the time and we got a lovely, nice brown skin. All right, I'm going to show you on me. Don't think I'm silly. Here's the leg, here's the thigh. You want to stick the thermometer on the inside. I'm going to show you as if this is the leg and this is the thigh, and we're tucked up right against the turkey. Where we're going to put the thermometer is right in here, but we're not going to touch the bone. We're going to, if you feel the bone, rummage around till you get away from the bone. That's where you want to take the temperature of the turkey. What we're looking for is 165 degrees. Good news. When you see that it's at 165, take it out and let it rest. This is so, so, so important. I'm going to let this rest for 30 to 60 minutes to let all the juices redistribute in the bird so it stays nice and moist. Trust me, it will stay rip-roaring hot out of the oven for a whole hour. And when we come back, I'll finish off our potatoes and gravy and get carving. We're in the home stretch of preparing Thanksgiving dinner. Our turkey is resting comfortably here on the counter, all nice and brown. And I'm ready to finish up my mashed potatoes and no-fail pan gravy that we partially prepped ahead. Let's start with the gravy, and it's related to the turkey. The turkey's been resting. And what we did when we first took it out of the roasting pan is we poured off all the juice that was in there. Look at all that fat that we accumulated. That's what's on the top. But the bottom stuff is delicious and it's going to add so much flavor to our gravy. I'm going to start by deglazing our pan. What's also delicious is all these little brown bits in the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of red wine to the pan. And I've got a Pinot Noir here. Alcohol really is a great conductor of flavor and will just make anything you add it to taste better. In this case, we're also going to taste the wine. It's going to add a nice, robust, sort of deep aroma. And you scrape up all those brown bits, and what they are nothing more than turkey juices that came out of the turkey and caramelized in the bottom of the pan. All right, so while this is loosening up and reducing here, we're just gonna simmer it down until we have, I don't know, about 1/4 cup in there. I'm gonna finish my mashed potatoes. Now I took that bowl that I had in the fridge and I nuked it about 2 to 4 minutes or till they're really nice and piping hot. And now we're gonna finish them off. I just use regular whole milk. If you want, you could use some heavy cream or half and half. I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup. You can add more, we'll see. I'm gonna get the butter in there too. And as much butter as you want, it could be a few tablespoons. I think I'm gonna add, let's start with 3 to 4. Add salt, pepper, there's our mashed potatoes. And the reason you don't want to make them completely the day before with the butter and the milk is when you go to reheat them, it sort of tastes stale. This way, they're going to taste so fresh and they're going to be so light as if you just made them right now, but you didn't. But don't tell anybody you didn't. All right, back to my gravy. All right, I can see it's cooked down. I've gotten all the brown bits up. So now I'm going to pour in my pre-prepped gravy. Wasn't I a genius to make that the day before? Who wants to be making this the day of? And get it all out, all that yummy stuff. We just stir it in, and the red wine's gonna give it some lovely color, but that is not all. I'm also gonna add the liquid that was in the bottom of the pan. There's so much flavor in this liquid because it's been hanging out with the turkey for almost the whole time that it was cooking. There we go, just got to the fat. Let me whisk this in there. Wow. Oh, this is gonna be so good. So we married the turkey drippings to the pre-made gravy, and nobody will know that you didn't make it at the last minute. And while that's simmering, I'm gonna go down and carve the bird. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the turkey onto the cutting board and add all these juices that I have left from the resting turkey back into the gravy. We keep building this gravy. We're on to mistake number 9, forgetting to remove the wishbone. You probably didn't even know that you had to in order to carve well. You probably just thought it was a little gimmick for the kids. You can see where the wishbone is because it shows you that it's down in here. There's a yummy piece of skin, and it goes right in there. You have to go in with a tip of a very sharp little knife. Just do a little excavation to find where the wishbone is. And just run your knife down either side of the wishbone. This takes time, so be patient. But it will make a huge difference when you're carving later on. You'll understand the method to my madness. Okay, there we go. We have the wishbone. Next, we're gonna take off the leg thigh. Just cut the skin and then push the leg down. That is the ball and socket joint right there, and that is what we want to pop. That is where the point is that the leg was attached. Okay, there is our leg thigh. Now, I'm going to take the breast off. You know the breastbone goes right down the middle, so you try to find it and go on one side, the side that you're going to start on. Now, if I hadn't taken the wishbone out here, I would keep hitting it as I go down. It would have been right in my way. I would have left all that breast meat on the bird. Okay, and when you get here, you just cut it off the wing. You could have taken off the wing first if you wanted to. Okay, we have all the parts that we need. I'll take this off, it makes it easier. Ha ha ha. Maybe save it for myself. And just slice the meat straight down in thin slices. Well, I'm gonna do some dark meat, but again, you could just do that fast. Okay, you put a nice assortment of dark meat and white meat on the platter, and we're gonna move on to mistake number 10, serving hot food cold. If in the process of carving your turkey has gotten cold, just take a little hot broth and spoon it over the top. Okay, it's time to have our Thanksgiving meal. we have our lovely table.
The turkey, the sides, the potatoes and gravy. Now that wasn't so bad, was it? Believe me, you've got this.
Thanksgiving dinner doesn't have to be daunting. Take advantage of my top 10 solutions for the most common mistakes. You'll be sure to be thankful. I'm Sara Moulton. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next time for more Weeknight Meals.